It's a new decade, which also means George's Cameras TV is back. Woo! In 2014, Nikon had a huge year for full-frame DSLR with the introduction of the D750. It was highly praised for its versatile low-light performance, high amounts of dynamic range, and compact size. However, the years came and we never saw an update to the D750. There were plenty of mirrorless cameras, an update to the D810, and it seemed like all the rumors of the D760 just went to a dead end. However, 2020 is a new decade and Nikon have finally produced an update for the D750 with the D780, and we're gonna see what this camera is all about and how it compares to its predecessor. So before we start today's video, make sure to hit the like button, and if you have any suggestions for future videos, comment them below as well. Now, today's video, we're gonna structure it into a few different bits. The first bit, we're gonna compare the D780 with the D750 in terms of body, and then we're gonna compare them in terms of features, take the D780 out for a road test, and compare their two image quality samples. So comparing the two bodies, you'll notice that the D750 is a bit smaller than the D780. The D780 sports a larger grip, it's a bit taller in size, which also allows more spaces for Nikon to place more buttons on the D780. So now you have a dedicated AF on button, which means that you don't have to reprogram the D750's AFL button for you to get back button autofocusing. And secondly, it now has repositioned the live view button from the bottom to the top, making it a lot more easier to access when you're shooting, and also gives you access to a plethora of new performance features, which I'll go through later on. On the side of the D750 and D780, they share pretty much the same ports. So for video users, you can benefit from having a microphone, headphone, and a HDMI port. But the main differences between the two is that the D780 now uses a USB-C 3.1 port, which basically not only means it's a lot more accessible to get cables, but it also allows for in-body charging when paired with the EN-EL15B battery that is included. Now, the Nikon D750 can't do in-body charging and uses a really annoying proprietary USB cable that costs not only a lot of money, but they break over time really easily. So upgrading to a USB-C port was definitely a great decision on Nikon's behalf. We are now going to talk about the big boy screen. Talking about the screens on the D750 and D780, the way they function is pretty much identical in terms of how they tilt. So they still both tilt down, and they also tilt back down the other way so you can shoot from below. However, the main difference between both of these screens is now that the D780 sports a larger 3.2-inch full touch screen, which means that you can use it to not only shoot, but navigate your menus too, which just makes the user experience a lot more seamless. So now to compare both cameras internally. The D780 now uses a upgraded 24.5 megapixel sensor as opposed to a 24.3 megapixel sensor in the D750. Now, although they're both full-frame sensors and don't really sport that much of an upgrade, where their biggest upgrade is the image processor. The 750 used an XP4 image processor, whereas the 780 uses an XP6, giving you a lot more power, which now allows you to record video in 4K up to 60 frames per second and Full HD up to 120 frames per second, where the 750 won't be able to match the slow motion capabilities in the 780, nor can it record in 4K. Secondly, the 780 will allow you to record in 10-bit as well as N-Log when you output the recording to a recorder via HDMI. In terms of continuous shooting speeds, the 750 did sport a quite impressive number at the time of 6 frames per second. The 780 slightly upgrades on that with a 7 frames per second continuous shooting speed mechanically. And lastly, one of my favorite updates in the D780 is the autofocus system. Although both still use the same 51-point autofocus system, that is only the case if you're using the D780 in the optical viewfinder. When you swap it into live view, it goes full Z6 mode on you, giving you a 273 phase detection AF system. What this allows you to do is not only grant 90% of frame coverage edge to edge, but also get the electronic features that you would expect from a mirrorless camera, which is features such as facial detection, as well as eye autofocus, which I think is pretty neat. So what we're gonna do now is going to take the D780 out on the field, and then we're gonna compare some image samples. Wow. So one thing I've noticed instantly upon taking this out is that the D780 is slightly heavier than the 750, but that's pretty much a given with the size. However, they've also changed the construction a bit. So the D750 used a polycarbonate construction, whereas the D780 uses a mag alloy construction, and it still feels super light anyway. So nothing to really complain about weight here. In terms of the autofocus system, this is super fun. So I've basically only been shooting on the live view and just using all the tracking features and the eye detect, and it works pretty well, surprisingly. I wouldn't say it's like as pinpoint and as quick as the Z6, but it's almost there. It's like 95% there, which for a live view shooting on a DSLR is ridiculously good. I'll put this on continuous high, baby. And if you think Nikon have forgotten about dual card slots, well, we've got dual card slots, both UHS 2 as well. Yeah. So we've taken Liv out of her busy schedule this morning just to help compare the images between the D780 and the D750. So first off, the user experience from the D780 compared to the D750. It is worlds apart with the awesome new touchscreen, and the fact that you can swap into live view and just get a better autofocus system, I think is brilliant. Using the D780 was really easy to get tracking shots, really easy to also get portrait shots, and just in general, shooting with it felt fantastic. Now the ergonomics with the brand new AF on button makes it really easy for you to get your focusing every time. Secondly, on top of that, in terms of the actual image quality between the 780 and 750, they're quite similar, both sporting very similar sensors. So in terms of the look, the contrast, the actual sharpness of all the photos, they all look quite similar. And today's sample images we shot all using the 2470 VR version 1. On top of that, although we didn't have a lot of time to test with the D780, we couldn't really take it out in low light conditions. However, we were out during a very dark and overcast day, and the D780 performed quite well. Furthermore, in terms of dynamic range, the D780 is just as good as the D750, but where I think the D780 excels over the 750 is its video recording abilities. We shot a couple slow motion videos and also some videos in 4K, and testing the eye autofocus out, it seems like Nikon really did punch a lot of the Z6 technology into the 780, making it a very versatile DSLR. So my final thoughts on the Nikon D780 as a camera and its relevance in 2020. So firstly, the high price tag of the D780 may make it difficult for a lot of people to consider jumping into a full frame DSLR from Nikon, as the price point is basically the same, if not more, than the D850, which makes it very, very expensive. However, that's because the D780 is Nikon's love child between mirrorless and DSLR, and I think this is an amazing step to see where DSLR is going in the years to come. Nikon have somehow and successfully fused the best elements of mirrorless tech, such as their autofocus system and electronic AF features, into a body that a lot of people are familiar with and still to this day enjoy shooting on the DSLR form factor. If you are a person that really loves the idea of having mirrorless tech and features, but don't really like using a smaller body, or just enjoy the robustness of a DSLR, then the D780 is a great middle ground option. Make sure to follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, and our blog to stay up to date with what's going on in store, and as well as our latest sales and giveaways in our description below. And check out our next video over here. It then sports a 273 free, oh my god,